For years, I was a total self-help junkie. I read all the books, set all the goals, made the vision boards, and I have never felt like a bigger failure in my entire life. I was just trapped in this cycle. Get advice, feel a little rush of motivation, and then crash. When surprise, nothing actually changed. I was obsessed with growth, but instead of feeling powerful, I just felt drained. So, this isn't another video about some new productivity hack. This is the story of how I finally got out of that toxic loop and what I found on the other side. I remember this one night so clearly. I was sitting on my floor, literally surrounded by notebooks full of color-coded plans for the new me who was supposed to show up tomorrow. And then a thought just hit me, and it felt almost physical. How do I know so much about how to change my life, but I feel like I am standing completely still? That one question sent me down a rabbit hole, and it forced me to confront a really uncomfortable truth. The multi-billion-dollar self-improvement industry wasn't my solution. In a lot of ways, it was the source of my pain. My dive into self-help started pretty innocently. Like a lot of people, there were things I wanted to improve. I wanted to be more disciplined, healthier, more successful. The self-help world makes this tantalizing promise of a clear formula for a better life. So, he went all in. I was waking up at 5 a.m., taking cold showers, journaling, meditating, writing down my goals, reciting affirmations. I turned my car into a rolling university of optimization, listening to podcasts on every commute. Every new book or guru was like a little hit of dopamine, a rush of hope that this time, this would be the missing piece. But the tomorrow where I'd finally be the person all those authors promised I could be, well, it just kept arriving and looking exactly like yesterday. The problem is that constant self-improvement is a game with no finish line. It's a loop of striving for a perfection that you can never, ever reach. The industry is built on two quiet, toxic messages. First, you're not good enough as you are. And second, you must always be striving to be better. This puts you in a state of perpetually feeling like you're not enough. You're not a person on a journey anymore. You're just a project that needs to be fixed. And there's no end to the tools for fixing you. There are apps to track your habits, seminars to rewire your brain, and influencers selling you the dream that if you just follow their 10-step plan, you can have it all, too. But this constant fixing has a really dark side. I didn't realize that I was getting addicted to the idea of progress, not actual progress. See, learning about how to change felt productive, but it didn't require the risk of actually changing. Planning my new life felt meaningful, but it didn't require the hard decisions and actions to actually build it. Even worse, when I inevitably failed, it wasn't seen as a data point. It was a moral failing. When I skipped a workout, or ate the cake, or didn't hit some crazy goal, the story wasn't, okay, let's adjust the plan. The story, reinforced by this culture of relentless positivity, was, you're not trying hard enough. You lack discipline. You are the problem. And that's the insidious genius of the cycle. It sells you a one-size-fits-all solution. And when it doesn't fit, you blame yourself, not the product. And it's not just a feeling. Some research has shown that people who consume a lot of self-help content can actually end up with higher levels of stress and are more prone to depressive symptoms. I was living proof. The more I tried to improve, the more I just reinforced this core belief that something was fundamentally wrong with me. My breaking point wasn't some big, dramatic explosion. It was more of a quiet, soul-crushing implosion. I'd spent 6 months meticulously planning and working toward a huge career goal. I followed every piece of advice. I hustled, I networked, I manifested, and I failed. Spectacularly. It wasn't just the failure that broke me, it was the shame that came after. I felt this overwhelming, suffocating sense of being completely inadequate. All the motivational quotes and productivity hacks gave me zero comfort. In fact, they felt like they were mocking me. The advice that was supposed to be my armor now felt like the weapon being used against me, because it all implied the failure was 100% my fault. And that's when I realized it. The biggest barrier to my growth wasn't my lack of discipline or some flawed mindset. It was the shame of not improving. This is the very heart of the toxic self-help cycle. You feel stuck, so you consume inspiration, you create these massive plans, you fail to execute them perfectly, and then you feel this deep inadequacy, which sends you right back to searching for more inspiration. I finally got it. The one thing you need for any self-help to actually work is the one thing the industry can't give you: the ability to accept that you're a good person who just messes up sometimes. This shame is what researchers call self-stigma. It is that internalized belief that needing help or failing to fix yourself is a sign of personal weakness. It's a huge barrier that stops people from getting real help. And it just gets worse inside the self-help echo chamber, where the message is always that you should be able to solve your own problems. I saw that I'd been using self-help to avoid life. It was so much easier to read another chapter on building confidence than to put myself in a situation where my confidence could actually be tested. It was safer to plan my dream business than to take that first terrifying, imperfect step. My brain had learned a dangerous trick. When I felt bad, watching an inspirational video would make the bad feeling go away for a little while. But it always came back, because I wasn't dealing with the root issue. I was just slapping a motivational bandage on it. The drive to improve myself had become a threat to my own identity, and it was consistently making me feel worse, not better. Keaton self-help felt like stepping off a hamster wheel I didn't even realize I was on. The silence was honestly deafening at first. My mornings were no longer a frantic race to finish some 10-step miracle routine. My podcast queue was empty. I just had to sit with myself, not the optimized version I was chasing, but my actual, messy, imperfect self. This is where my journey into spiritual development began. And I need to be crystal clear here. This is not about religion. It's not about finding a new guru or another set of rules. For me, it was the exact opposite. Spiritual development was about shifting my focus from the self to my connection with the world around me. While self-help is often about chasing some future happiness, this was about finding it right now. The first, most revolutionary shift was going from fixing to accepting. Spirituality starts with the idea that you're already whole, not that you're broken and need to be put back together. It's about embracing who you are right now, in this moment. That doesn't mean you stop growing or changing. It just means your motivation comes from a place of self-compassion instead of self-criticism. Instead of tearing through how-to books, I started exploring something called bibliotherapy. The idea is simple: using literature to support your mental health. So instead of prescriptive nonfiction, I started reading stories, novels, memoirs, poetry, philosophy. These books didn't give me a 5-step plan. They gave me perspective. They let me see my own struggles reflected back in the universal human experience, which made me feel so much less alone. Reading about someone else's journey helped me understand my own and build empathy, not just for others, but for myself. And this isn't just a fluffy idea. Some studies show that guided bibliotherapy can be as effective as traditional psychotherapy. The second huge shift was moving from doing to being. My life had turned into one giant to-do list of improvements. A spiritual practice invited me to just be. This looked like spending time in nature, not as a scheduled health-optimizing activity, but just to feel connected to something bigger than my own anxieties. It meant rediscovering hobbies I did just for the joy of it, not because I could monetize them or turn them into a side. It meant practicing real mindfulness, which isn't about clearing your mind, but about noticing the thoughts that are there without judging them. This whole approach is about building inner resilience instead of chasing external signs of success. It's about asking, what happened to you, instead of what's wrong with you. It's a gentler, more profound path. It's about understanding that your worth isn't tied to how productive you are. It's about finding meaning in connection and purpose, not just optimization. My journey is far from over. I still have days where I struggle, but that desperate, frantic energy of constantly needing to be better is gone. It's been replaced by a quieter, more grounded sense of peace. I'm no longer at war with myself. I am sharing this because I know I am not the only one who has felt trapped on that self-help hamster wheel. And I really want to know about your experience. Have you ever felt caught in that toxic cycle of self-improvement? Did you find a different path that worked for you? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I really believe we can learn so much from each other when we read just honest about the struggle. The great irony in all of this is that the moment I stopped trying so damn hard to improve myself was the moment I actually started to grow. The goal isn't to become a perfect, optimized machine. It's to become more fully and compassionately human. It's about learning to let go, to be present, and to accept yourself not as a project to be completed, but as a person who is worthy of peace right now, exactly as you are. You don't need another version of yourself. You just need to give yourself permission to finally participate in your own life. Thanks for watching.